Hello, and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Alex. Today we will be making a drinking game for Halloween 5, directed by Dominique Othenin-Girard, and written by him, Michael Jacobs, and Shem Bitterman. As for what else they worked on, nothing else in their career really stands out to us.
Halloween 5 takes place 1 year after the events of the fourth movie. Somehow, Michael Myers survives getting gunned down and blown up with a stick of dynamite. After a full year asleep, he wakes up and once again goes after Jamie, who is now mute since the night she attempted to kill her own foster mother. Speaking of which, she is now in an institution for children. Her connection with Michael is still very strong, however, as she can sense when Michael is going to murder someone.
Before we move on, we will be discussing some spoilers in this video, so watch at your own risk. However, most Halloween movies are pretty predictable, so there is honestly not a lot to spoil since you can probably guess what is going to happen next. If you do not want to be spoiled, however, take these drinking rules and come back once you are done, as we will be now heading to the drinking rules.
As for any drinking games you play with us, the first rule will always be if you see somebody die, you take a drink. Rule number 1 gave us 17 sips this time around.
Rule number 2 that always sticks around for each drinking game is that if you hear somebody scream, cry, or yell, you take a sip. In total, this made us drink 23 sips.
Now, of course, we will move on to our Halloween franchise rules, which starts with if Halloween is said verbally or seen in text, take a sip.
But she attacks her stepmother. That's why they fear her. Especially on Halloween.
We counted this rule occurring 5 times.
Rule number 4, which of course is another indicator you are watching a Halloween movie, is you drink if you see a pumpkin. In total, we counted 39 in the movie.
Next, we have if you witness somebody committing a slasher sin, take a sip. This is as bad as some other horror movies out there, such as Friday the 13th, as Halloween produced 6 slasher sins, such as drugs, premarital sex, and consuming alcohol, like us.
Continuing on with our rules, if you hear the names Michael or Myers, you take a sip. This movie presented us with 18 unique instances where we heard one name or both of the names combined.
You take a sip if you see Michael Myers on screen is our next rule. Since this villain always ends up getting quite a bit of screen time, we took 16 drinks for his efforts.
Before we move on to our movie exclusive rules, we will mention our 8th rule, which is you must take a sip when you hear the Halloween theme song. They really did end up milking this quite a bit, as this rule, much like the last one, resulted in 16 sips.
Now we will move on to the 2 Halloween 5 exclusive rules, starting with if you see the cult symbol, take a sip. It did not appear too often, as it only resulted in 4 drinks.
Our last rule today is that if you see the mysterious man in black, you must take a sip from your drink. This rule had a pretty low tally, only making us drink 5 sips.
And that is all the rules for Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. The total number of drinks for this movie by our count comes to 149 sips, which is the equivalent of drinking 5 standard 12-ounce cans. Minus 1 sip if you use our 30 sip per can scale.
So the main thing to talk about the drinking rules itself is the discrepancy. It's almost like a reverse bell curve in how it's either under 6 drinks or it's over 15. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation, I guess, that we found ourselves in. A lot of the times our rules are pretty well balanced, but this one kind of, I don't know, just because of the way the movie was, I guess, there's quite a lot of discrepancy, like you said. And in saying that, it did kind of make our game a little bit harder than a lot of our other drinking games, because this one there was 5 drinks, so there was quite a few drinks involved with this one, and I think it might be, I guess aside from Season of the Witch, this is the hardest Halloween movie.
Yeah. I guess the main thing is still pumpkins. They're everywhere throughout the movies because it's Halloween.
Yeah. So I guess just going into a bit of the movie, I want to start by saying the plot is absurd, and they try to use the exact same formula that they use for every other Halloween movie, aside from 3. So the movies feel so similar, which makes it boring. But not similar to the first one necessarily, because the first one's not boring, but they're so similar to each other. The sequels are so similar to each other.
Definitely.
And it's just, it doesn't have that charm like the first one. And we both said it to each other that we catch ourselves confusing 4 and 5 so many times, and I don't know, they all just bleed together, and it's hard to distinguish one from the other.
Yeah, the main problem is, I think this is even for 6 as well, so many times I caught myself saying the Curse of Michael Myers for 4 and 5 that it just bled together so well. So 4, 5, and 6 are basically the same movie. You could even count 2 in there as well, but they all feel so similar.
Yeah, I agree. And it really hinders the franchise as a whole because of this block of movies that are all just the same schlock. They're not really that great, to be honest.
Yeah. The main difference with this movie and the 4th one, though, is we mentioned how absurd the plot is, and it wasn't that bad in 4, but 5, it's actually all over the place. So, the plot, just everything. So, Tucker made the argument when I brought up why there's no, like, actual talking from Jamie for the first, like, half of the movie, and he says that because Jamie's related to Michael Myers, she's not talking, especially with what happened in the end of the 4th one.
Yeah.
But that's basically the only reason, and they really don't carry a lot of the plot over from the 4th one.
Yeah.
So it just makes it even more confusing, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and that was just my theory, is because in the 4th one they ended it as Jamie was kind of going to be the next Michael Myers in a sense. So my argument was, well, maybe if they were going with that plot line, they made her a mute because Michael Myers is a mute. But they didn't go with that plot line, even though it was kind of assumed they would. And I don't know if they just scrapped that script and then they decided to keep her a mute or what. But either way, it was very random and out of place with the context of this movie.
So I guess in comparison from this movie and the last movie is that we mentioned how we like Jamie's acting from Danielle Harris.
Yeah.
We liked the child acting, it was good, so they just decided to remove probably one of the better elements of the last film.
Yeah, without her talking.
And instead, now the child actor they have is Billy, who stutters.
Jamie, are you okay?
And we made a mention of this in Conjuring 2, how there's always Billy actors that stutter. And here's another one.
Yeah. First you have it from It, and then, like you said, Conjuring 2, and now there's this one. I don't think this stutter is as bad as some of the other ones, but it's still a little bit there, so... I mean, this one came before some of those other movies, but still.
And, like, it doesn't really add anything to the movie. So, for example, one scene that had me pulling teeth is when there's a kid that's stuttering trying to explain what a mute girl is saying.
What is so?
Big woman.
A big woman? A big woman who works in the store.
Cookie woman.
Cookie woman.
It's pulling teeth. It's hard to watch and frustrating and everything else.
Yeah, I agree. The characters in this movie were not as good, I guess, as the 4th one. Like, it just kind of took a step down. Even though some of the characters are returning, it just, I don't know. They weren't written in properly, I guess. And on the topic of characters, we have Rachel returning, which she was alright in the 4th one. Like, no complaints, really. She was a decent final girl. But they killed her off within the first quarter of the movie, I guess. Maybe half, whatever. But who takes her place? Like, her friend for some reason. We don't really know why, but I guess she's the new final girl. But there was really no significance of killing off Rachel, considering that they wanted another character to fill the exact same purpose, which it's kind of similar to another movie that we reviewed, which was Saw, I guess, 4 and 5, where Agent Strom and Perez basically replace Agent Carey and Detective Matthews, and they're essentially the same characters. It's like, what's the point? So it's the exact same idea in this movie. There was really no need for it. I guess it was just to have another kill on their count.
Yeah. The plot, however, feels absolutely everywhere. The cult symbol is supposed to be a setup for next movie, but the point about that to make is they set up a plot point for last movie, which was that Jamie's supposed to be the killer, and then they scrapped it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how are we supposed to trust them for doing this?
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of feels rushed, and I don't know really what they're going for, to be honest. I guess another thing to point out, I guess, with the plot is they overuse fake outs, especially where the scene at the barn, there's at least 3. Like, we have the boyfriend Spitz, who pretends like he's Michael Myers and it's just a fake out, and then I think there's a cat in the barn that fakes us out, and I don't know, they're all over the place, not just in the barn, but throughout the whole movie, and it really gets annoying. Like, it's okay to use some fake outs once in a while, but when you're overusing them, it's just, it wears off the effect of them, really.
Yeah, quite a bit. I guess more problems with the plot is the police abandon the Myers house. The biggest problem with that is if his main objective is to kill Jamie, why are they moving away from the objective?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, like a lot of things in this movie, though.
This goes into another trope where characters just felt stupider in this movie for the plot convenience.
Yeah, and we'll get into that with the Darwin Awards,
Oh,
obviously.
definitely. Michael Myers picking up Tina to drive her around the city. Another stupid plot plot point, I guess. He could have just easily killed her there, but he was just in this scene saying nothing as she was calling him Michael because her boyfriend's name was Mike.
Yeah, it was just another stupid point that shouldn't have been there, really.
Yeah.
One thing that I really wanted to point out, and I hated it so much, is when they showed Michael take off his mask and then they showed a tear running down his face.
Yeah.
The reason I hate that so much is because Michael is supposed to be an emotionless psychopath who's just basically a killing machine, and the fact that they're showing him have emotion just goes against everything that was set up in the first film.
Just the fact that they're even showing his face, despite there being some darkness towards it, that's just a sin to do in a Michael Myers movie, especially.
Yeah, true. Like, we do get to see his face in the first one when he's escaping the mental institution, but that's the only time before he gets his mask.
Yeah, but very, very scarcely we see Michael Myers'
Yeah,
face.
exactly.
But yeah, super stupid things in the movie, such as using a knife as a springboard to escape the vents and jump up higher. I don't think knives work like that. Just so many problems with the movie for either plot convenience or just bad writing, directing. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it was just a mess, honestly. And in saying that, I want to know what your overall thoughts on the film were.
Not a fan. Everything was sloppy, dumb, or made for plot conveniences. I don't know if, again, as I said, was it bad decisions with the script or direction? Just so many things they could have done better, which they just swept under the rug from the last movie. They seemed like they forgot about the movie.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. It seems like they didn't even watch the fourth one, which they were trying to expand off of, which it didn't work in pretty much any way. It was just a bad movie, and I don't know. It's bottom of the barrel in terms of the Halloween franchise, I think. Maybe there's worse ones. We'll find out as we move forward, but it's not going too high rank-wise. And finally, we come to the award ceremony, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes out to the character who made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, someone else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have easily been avoided. This award can also be given to a character who is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is the old man that took care of Michael Myers for an entire year. This means that he did not contact anybody about finding a man floating down a river. Instead, he just kept him in his house and took care of a dangerous serial killer in a comatose state.
Next, we have Spitz, who dressed up as Michael Myers and pretended to murder Tina in front of the two cops that had guns on them. That's not to mention that clearly Spitz does not remember years ago when Ben Tramer was killed by the cops wearing a Michael Myers mask.
Speaking of the police, they're next for leaving the one person who Michael Myers is after, Jamie. I have no idea why they would have thought that this was a good idea, considering he only had one real objective, and that was to kill Jamie, who they left alone with Looney Loomis.
Speaking of Loomis, he is the final nominee today. He gets a Darwin Award for attempting to use Jamie as bait. Once again, we have Loomis making a rash decision.
And the winner is the old man that took care of Michael Myers for a year. Not only did he give him free room and board, but he also probably had to clean up after his poops, urines, give him food, and probably oxygen for an entire year. Not to mention, Michael Myers gladly repays him by murdering him.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed our look into Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. If you end up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know in the comments if this was your least favorite Halloween movie thus far, because we know it's not your favorite.
Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode where we are going to be making a drinking game for Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. If you want to check out our most recent video on Halloween 4, click on the box on the top right. Or, if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games and movies we review, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying,
Cheers to fears.
Go home! Go to your house. I shall be there waiting for you. You'll find her waiting for you.